Libertarian candidate Marc Victor dropped out of the Arizona Senate race on Tuesday and encouraged voters to cast their ballots for the GOP candidate, Blake Masters, instead of Democrat Mark Kelly, saying, quote, "Will he likely do some things that I'm not excited about? Yeah, I think so. Is he likely to do other things that I'm very happy with? Yes. There's no perfect choices here. I think we have to recognize that."
Joining us now to discuss this and all sorts of other Libertarian candidates seeking office around the country is Chair of the National Libertarian Party, Angela McArdle. Welcome, Angela.
Hey there. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, so great to hear from you. So want to start with this question before we discuss some of the other candidates. The mainstream media will rail, or some other people, the Republicans will complain, Democrats will complain about third parties, Libertarian Party, Green Party, et cetera, serving as spoilers in races. I always say, as a Libertarian, I say, well, no one, our vote is not owed to one of the two parties. So I was a little disappointed to see this move from this candidate. What do you make of what happened there?
Well, I've been in contact with Mark, and we haven't had a chance to hash it all out yet, but ultimately it's his decision. The Libertarian Party of Arizona didn't have any control over whether or not Marc Victor stayed in the race. And while I appreciate a lot of Blake Masters' policy positions, obviously as the chair of the National Libertarian Party, I'm not able to endorse him. So I wish everyone in Arizona the best of luck voting and to vote your conscience. And I hope that in the future, under my leadership, we can foster some better communication within the party so that people aren't disappointed and they don't have different expectations set about what candidates seek to achieve when they run for office.
Yeah, I mean, this spoiler thing is perhaps the most troubling obstacle for third parties to overcome. I have been heartened to see that Andrew Yang and the Forward Party campaign has really foregrounded their effort to advocate for ranked choice voting across the country, because there is something deeply hypocritical about, from my perspective, I've been mostly watching Democrats rile against third party spoilers, obviously, since Ralph Nader's famous example, while at the same time blocking measures that would prevent spoilers from happening in the first place. And I have been aware of some efforts of third parties, Green parties with the Libertarian parties working together to try to advocate for different kinds of voting systems, whether it's ranked choice voting or another one. How much is that a project that's being prioritized right now?
Ranked choice voting is something that a lot of party members are interested in, but it is not at the top of my priority list right now, because I need to focus on making sure our candidates are properly equipped to run elections and that our state parties are also properly equipped to support them. I'm very optimistic about ranked choice voting, but I have yet to see the results of it and to see it bear fruit and really demonstrate that it's going to change the electoral outcome. I'm hesitant to give it a shining endorsement, because for people who want to see ranked choice voting and then also combine it with like a top two system, which I'm not 100% sure that's what Andrew Yang is interested in, but it sounds like it is, that would essentially be what we have in California, which is basically one party rule and a terrible system. So I want to be cautious before I push that forward.
In this case, though, what do you make of the fact that ostensibly the reason that the Libertarian candidate has dropped out is because there is this pressure not to spoil a tight election? How do you get around candidates from doing that sort of thing, since it obviously imperils the Libertarian Party's efforts here?
Well, as a political party, our aim is to get candidates elected, but we also seek to push the Overton window in the direction of liberty and to force the other two parties to adopt more libertarian positions. So I'm not focused on spoiling races. I'm more focused on local elections and becoming the minor party in states where Democrats or Republicans have abandoned the state, like Alabama, for example. That's a great example. But we also do need to have a paradigm shift in electoral politics, so that people can understand you're not entitled to anyone else's vote. That's very unlibertarian. I know that conservatives don't like entitlement policies, and I wish that they would change their thinking when it comes to entitlement of other people's votes.
So there's a Pennsylvania Libertarian candidate in that Senate race, Eric Gerhard, who said he told my colleague at Reason Magazine, Eric Boehm, Eric asked him if he would similarly drop out or something like that. He said he would never do that. There's no value to that. It's a hard no. It's never happening. There's also a a Libertarian Senate candidate in the Georgia race. So what issues are these candidates running on? What issues that maybe the major parties are missing is the Libertarian Party trying to give voice to this cycle?
Well, I think that Eric Gerhardt in Pennsylvania is correct to not want to drop out, especially because look at Dr. Oz. I mean, the man is barely more articulate, in my opinion, than Fetterman. He's flip-flopped on gun policy. He's endorsed by the World Economic Forum. He hasn't been in Pennsylvania for very long. The fact that he can't beat Fetterman in a race is not anything that libertarians should be, biting their nails over or clutching their pearls about. That's just a pitiful race. So Eric Gerhardt is there to actually represent libertarianism. I don't think that Dr. Oz and Blake Masters have anything. They're not close at all in ideology or policy. I understand that Blake Masters in Arizona has articulated some more libertarian talking points, and I appreciate that to a certain extent, but we're not seeing that in Pennsylvania. And I believe that's the same case in Georgia. From what I understand, the Georgia GOP is not liberty-minded. They're much more milquetoast neocon in their governance style. So I support our candidates who are running there.
For someone like me who's not as familiar with the with the Libertarian Party, I'm sorry, knee-jerk instincts. Help me understand what you mean by more liberty-minded.
Well, we really want to push economic and personal freedom. So obviously we're opposed to things like lockdowns. We're opposed to vaccine mandates, but we're also very interested in economic freedom, deregulation, sound money. We don't want to see candidates get up there and say that they're going to fold under pressure and support inflationary spending. We don't want to see people who are going to praise the Federal Reserve or even begrudgingly push a yes vote when we're talking about printing trillions of dollars. That's not something that libertarians want. And to that extent, yes.
And before we let you go, Angela, can you mention the Ukraine element to this? Because I think this is a very distinguishing issue for libertarians. I'm sure there are many people in the Green Party probably expressing this sentiment as well. We had just interviewed someone from the Green Party. This total bipartisan buy-in among the Republican Democratic Party that there should be a blank check for funding and continuing what's going on in Ukraine. There's almost no opposition in the Democratic Party. There was a little bit of opposition that had to get walked back. There's tiny opposition in the Republican Party. Maybe it's growing. I don't know. But what does the Libertarian Party have to say about that?
We do not believe that the United States should be involving itself in a proxy war between NATO and Russia. We absolutely feel for the people in Ukraine and people in Russia as well who have been impacted by this horrendous conflict, but we do not believe it's the United States' business to get involved, and we should not be sending money over there. We should not be sending weapons, especially not money, considering that the Fed just hiked interest rates. People are feeling the pain at the grocery store, at the pump. It's a real slap in the face to Americans when we can't get a handout from our own government, but this people in Ukraine can. It's just not good policy, and we don't support it.
Well, it's a real pleasure to get to know you today, Angela. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we'll have more Rising for you right after this.